Okay, so I'm back. In the last video, I was sort of talking about how, like,
Data scan.
a lot of the
Downloading
quarantine.
files.
I need to ask a favor. Personal. Alexis Kwan. She's important to me, and, well, I need to know she's okay.
Right. I was basically talking about how quarantine measures here are a waste of fucking time. Like, as it stands, quarantine has already been breached. So locking everything down now is a waste of fucking time. And yeah, we've got a new strain of COVID going around, like a new sort of main strain, so to speak. But again, like, if you're limiting people's contact, all you're going to do is risk another fucking mutation of that strain to kick up, and ultimately we'll go through this again in another 2-3 months. So we'll be in an endless fucking cycle of never-ending fucking lockdowns, relaxations, lockdown, relaxation. It's a waste of fucking time. As I was saying in the last video, COVID itself is not really that big of a deal. I mean, it's a respiratory influenza variant. So it works very different to influenza. Like, the symptoms are relatively different to an influenza, but it's more like a respiratory infection than it is an actual influenza, even though it's part of the influenza family. And someone was yelling at me the other day that, oh no, it's not part of the influenza family, like it's part of the COVID family. It's like, yeah, but the COVID family is a subset of influenza. It's just a very specific variant. Oh, there you are. But as I was saying on the last episode, whether or not, like, you're gonna count it as such, or is it it's COVID to flu is what mad cow disease is to, oh fuck, what is it? There's a human variant of it that is called something completely different. Oh shit! Okay, well, was not expecting a world boss to jump out there. Anyway, so regardless of what we're going to class COVID as or anything like that, generally speaking, everyone can agree it's a respiratory issue. That's the main problem with it. It's the main sort of like killer element, so to speak. At least that's what it is on the surface. And yeah, like the main aspect of it is it does adversely affect your respiratory system. Now, the reason why it should be taken perhaps more seriously than it might seem on the surface is because on the surface, there isn't actually a reason to take it seriously. What I mean is, most who have it
detected.
most who have it are essentially going to survive it.
Turn out any better this week?
Honey, it's only getting worse. I just heard Bill and Sandra are sick, and no one's seen or heard from Alexis in weeks.
Yeah, most people who contract COVID are going to survive. What is it? In 99, even in the worst case scenario, like people over 65, who are more susceptible to illnesses and have lower survival chances, even they have like a 97 point something survival rate.
I stopped by her apartment on the way here, but she didn't answer.
Might be sick. Half my office is out with something.
I know, but she didn't show up last week either.
I just...
Hey,
I
Alexis,
can't anymore. It's
Dia.
too
Just wanted to
much.
see if you're planning
All
to
you
come
can do
tonight.
is try.
Even if you're not having a great
We're
week, that's what
survivors.
we're here for. So come on over if you can, and give me a call even if you can't, just so we know you're okay. Okay? Take care.
Not very supportive of her.
Cut her some slack, Albert.
Yeah, so the survival rate in over 65s is like 97%, something like that. Yeah, I think that's about what it is. And then the survival rate in those under 65 is, or under 60, is like 99.8, something ridiculous. Like you're pretty much guaranteed if you're under a certain age.
What's happening out there?
Now, I kind of want to find somewhere out of this building. Now, the bigger element of it isn't whether you can survive COVID or not. Like, how deadly is COVID? COVID on its own, not very deadly. You've got a fantastic survival chance, like far better survival chance than if you were suffering from flu or a common cold. But that's not the big deal about COVID. The main problem with COVID is that... Oh. Yeah, the main problem with COVID is that respiratory issue, because it has respiratory inflammation. So if you contract any other disease or anything like that, your survival chances with that disease, it's like I mean, everyone's a gamer. Is well likely to be a gamer here. So in gaming terms, essentially it's like a debuff. I mean, the debuff itself isn't going to fucking kill you, but, you know, getting hit by various things, well, you're debuffed? Yeah, it's going to be a fucking bad day. And this is where the big issue with COVID comes into play. Because the debuff that it gives you to your respiratory system means like any respiratory related illness, anything that could cause issues with your respiratory system after you've had it, it's just going to be, it's a permanent debuff. At least for the time being. If it can be cleared from your system, can be sorted out, or mitigated, well, I could, that could probably help. But as it stands, you know, that debuff's a big fucking problem.
Hey Alexis, it's Brenda again. Still haven't heard from you. It looks like this flu thing is getting kinda serious. My brother's family's leaving the city just to be on the safe side. Going to my parents' place in Passaic. I think I'm gonna go with them, and I know you're kind of on your own at the moment, but I just wanted you to know you're welcome to come with. Call me if you get this. I really want to know you're okay. Bye.
Readings indicate an echo nearby.
So yeah, like, that's a big deal with COVID. It's why you don't want many people to actually have it, because like the problem is it's going to make a lot of other diseases for many years to come a bigger concern, a bigger deal.
Good to see you.
So I can.
Trying to be so brave. Fucking got him.
So while I can understand the point in being arguably afraid of it, and sort of putting in quarantine measures to stop the spread of it, at least until it can be eradicated safely. I'd say the reality is because governments didn't deal with it quick enough, it doesn't matter at this point. It's something that I think long-term research and development is just going to have to deal with. But the thing is, it seems to me that a lot of governments are using it as an excuse to increase their control, increase their dominant powers in democratic nations. You know, a lot of the measures that are coming in under the guise of the pandemic, a lot of measures that they're taking, they don't make sense as protective measures for the country itself. It does make sense when you consider that it can be used as a what's the word for it? Oh, I hate it when I just forget words. It can be used as a I don't want to say dog whistle because that's not right. A justification for doing similar things in the future. You know, having taking a more draconian edge to things. Where they can say, "Oh well, we're doing this all for the protection of the people," and because it's worked in the past, whether it's actually worked or not, and I'd state openly, it hasn't worked. Everything they put in place, what has gotten better? Are all the cases? Do we have minimal cases? Do we have, increased survival chances? You know, at the moment their claim is, oh well, the hospital systems are oversaturated and just, they can't cope with everything that's going on. At the same time, the same hospital systems during said period have been, had their fundings reduced because, you know, there's been so many people furloughed from their positions at work, put on hiatus, and then the government's been having to subsidize that, and we're entering into one of the biggest recessions, one of the highest unemployment periods in recorded history because of all this.
Jess, I hope you got out while you could. I know you love germs, but this is a little much, even for you. If the world ever gets back to normal, I hope you find this and know that I didn't suffer. I don't want you wondering. I'll be thinking of you, thinking about the place we spent our first night in the city together. I can't think of any place I'd rather be. I love you. Always.
Yeah, so, you know, like, if they were serious about protecting people, protecting everything, the first thing that would have happened would have been ports would have been shut down. And not a case of ports shut down to be like, oh, well, you know, we've... and yeah, not a case of, oh, ports have been shut down, you know, just to ease tensions or whatever after the fact, but a case of like, oh, well, we've got cases in such and such town, quarantine the town, shut down any airports going in and out to make sure that it doesn't leave the country. You know, there's measures that could happen that could have gone into place, and they would have protected a large portion of the country as a whole. But that's not what they've done. And yeah, as I said, like things like the NHS or most hospitals, where they're saying, "Oh well, hospitals can't cope. This is why we've had to put in these measures." Well, they've been dropping financial support for them because of having to furlough, because we're in such a recession, low jobs, whatnot. There's not as much money. Like, think about it. The only thing that has been open consistently throughout the whole pandemic, and this is true for every single country, has been oh yeah, I've been there. The only thing that has been open consistently throughout all of this has been the grocery stores, which somewhat ironically right now that's what I work for, so I've been working throughout the entire pandemic non-stop. But it's as I said, it's the only thing that has been consistently open, and the reality is those of us who work for grocery stores, we're all on minimum wage. Typically speaking, we're not paying much tax. And when we do, the tax that we do pay generally ends up having to get paid back to us because, like, you know, we're under the sort of taxation bracket. Our earnings are under it. We're not earning more than like 12,000, 13,000. And if you're earning 13,000, you're only paying tax on what, £500 a year? So, you know, that's paying 20% on £500. That's £125 of tax I'm paying a year. That's not going to cover the fucking NHS. I don't mean just me individually, but like the whole grocery food industry as a whole. And you keep in mind, most people aren't working like 30 to 50-hour weeks like I typically do, because I do an awful lot of overtime so that I can have more money available. I'm quite content. I'm actually. The irony is, I am actually working fewer hours at now I'm working at a grocery store than I was working when I was doing software development. The 50, 60-hour week, pretty much normal. I mean, technically illegal, but you're only strictly required to work 39 hours, which is under the legal limit. And I think the maximum legal limit's what, 56 hours a week, something like that. So you could get away with you could get away with a couple of extra hours a week where they'd be like, oh yeah, no, it's voluntary. Or like it's covered by lunch and shit like that. What are these? Level 27, 24, 26,
We're at the radio mast, but there's
22. So yeah, I mean, those of us on minimum wage, we're not fucking covering the cost. Like on a good, generally speaking, we're not tax contributing individuals, so to speak. And it's not that we don't want to be, it's just that we have jobs where we're not earning enough to be tax contributing. Generally speaking, in order to be providing a contributing interest to tax for, say, fucking, I don't know.
This is dispatch to any available officers in Murray Hill. Dr. Candle has requested our assistance collecting virological data from the old Sarah camp on East 34th and 1st.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Alert.
Yeah.
Contamination scan initiated.
To sort of be a contributing, sort of like have a positive contribution to tax for, you know, all of the social services that are going on, you need to be earning somewhere in the order of about, I think it's 37,000 a year. That's at the point where you have a positive contribution. Until then, you don't. You just don't.
Alert. Contamination scan initiated.
And it's not like... The thing is, it's not like people who earn lower would be like saying, oh yeah, sure, we'll pay more into the... we'd want to pay more into the system. I mean... The big issue at play is a case of like being able to afford various things anyway.
Alert. Contamination scan initiated.
I mean, I for example, I live with my brother. We both have minimum wage jobs. We both do, well, I do on average, I think it's 34 hours a week. He does on average 38
Thank you.
hours.
This should make Dr. Candle happy.
Oh no, I think it's 37 and a half, something like that. So between the two of us, we don't have, we're both paid at essentially minimum wage, which for us being over 25 is what, £8.80, £8.60, something like that an hour. But like in terms of other things, I mean, our rent, the rent for our home is 1,200 a month. No, 12.50, 12.65, something like that. Then there's income tax, which which in the States, for example, would be property tax. And on top of that, we've got the water utility, the gas, the electric. And then if we have any money left over, you have food and whatnot. So, yeah, I might as well do this. 25 minutes. Yeah, might as well do the encounters.
You just gave me a reason to keep going.
So, we're not exactly well off. And while we'd love to pay more tax, you just can't, because, as I said, like, the majority of what we're earning each year is the majority of what we're earning monthly is essentially going on primarily on rent, but rent and utilities. We have enough to be, I guess, in ordinary circumstances, I say we have enough to be comfortable. As I said, like with my favorite cat becoming ill, and that being a very expensive expenditure for the month. I mean, I don't have £500 excess each month. I just don't have that. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't even think twice about spending it again. I did have extra available. I've still got.
Calling all Murray Hill units. We're expecting a mercy drop on the course at East 36th and 2nd. Could use a few extra hands with this one. LMB spotted near the drop zone.
This is Sparrow 6. ETA on your position is under 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, I'd argue I'd spend it again in a heartbeat, in order to make sure that my cat stayed alive.
Warning, hostile forces approaching.
But it's not something I can do every month. I think in general I have about
Warning, hostile forces approaching.
I don't know. I want to say maybe 150, 200 of sort of like excess that I can spend, and that's provided like my boss isn't screwing me on hours. Which right now my boss is screwing me on hours. I've just had some very good months.
Warning,
Don't get me wrong.
forces approaching.
The thing is right now my boss is fucking for his my boss is fucking for his yearly bonus. So he's like, oh, I'm going to keep all of these expenses down. Keeping all those expenses down means cutting everyone fucking out. I mean, God forbid he actually runs the store properly, and and then has like a decent overhead, like a decent normal overhead that isn't ridiculous. I'm gonna destroy his own bonus. I mean, that's kind of the point in the bonus system, based upon like how much wastage and sort of like discounted products you sell. It's to make sure that you're not wasting that many products. It's to make sure you're not, overriding the prices to sell at a lower cost just to get rid of them and make some money back.
This is Sparrow 6, over. We are on site and have you back.
It's one of those things where you're like,
Good to know that I can always count on
if he ran the store properly, he wouldn't need to cut people's hours, and because the number of hours I'm not even contracted to it. At the moment, I've got him with the gentleman's agreement on the amount of hours that he can give me, because I'm contracted for 16 hours. When I started there, I was like, well, I wanted 3 days a week because I wasn't sure. I was going through some mental health problems, depression, whatnot, and I needed I basically needed somewhere to work that was flexible, that had flexible hours. Flexible hours in regards to like if I happen to sort of curl up into a ball and not be just a man or beast, I could take like a personal day or something like that, or swap the shift. I mean, I worked in retail before when I was much younger. I'd worked in retail before, but
Sparrow 5 here. We're approaching your position now.
no, it's just probably
Hostile forces approaching.
the store that I work at now is probably the worst, one of the worst managed stores I've ever worked for.
Warning. Hostile forces approaching.
We need you. All in round.
Warning. Hostile forces approaching.
So yeah, as I said, how COVID's being handled, to sort of like make a severe left turn here.
Warning. Hostile forces approaching.
Oh shit, did I kill it? Oh, whoops. You know, argue that was probably a stray bullet. Yeah, but as far as this COVID situation, COVID lockdowns go, they don't make any sense. I mean,
It's an honor to fight.
because as I said, someone like me, and it was an over-explanation that sort of went into a ramble and ran about my job, but someone like me isn't going to be, with the job I've got at the moment, isn't going to be supplying enough money to keep social systems alive. We just don't. I mean, not unless the government was going to mandate that we have to be paid double to triple what we are now.
Confirmed. Sparrow 5 is on site and ready to engage.
And arguably, if I was paid double what I am now, then I'd be quite happy to pay tax.
Thanks for all your help. We'll make sure these supplies are put to good use.
I'd be quite happy to pay tax. I'd be perfectly fine taking most of the abuse that a lot of shop staff take. That we have been taking under the COVID situation, because we get it in the neck for all the decisions that are made by head office, for all the decisions made by
All units be advised. Heavy Ryzen presence at the row on East 34th and 3rd. Backup requested.
oh fuck. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a thing, like, it makes sense that they're reducing funding for things like the NHS, because obviously during a recession period where people like myself are the ones that are basically paying for it, we can't afford it, then sure, it makes... Oh. Interesting. It makes an awful lot of sense to turn around and say, okay, well, you know, we have to cut back on spending for all of this. The element of it that sort of doesn't make... Okay.
Wow. Taking out Trigger Mike and getting those Rikers away from the supply drop? We'll remember you around here.
Which flat? Well, probably all of them. No, that's fine. Oh, they're level 21s. Okay. I will have to deal with them later. Hopefully this next safe house actually has a thing. But yeah, so it makes sense that they're scaling back on funding for these things, because we're not going to be able to afford them. Basically, the country's going to be in big debt and broke. The thing that I don't understand is why they're continuing with measures that are essentially going to screw over even more businesses. Because you could say, oh, well, you know, this is to help people survive, this is to help people...
I believe the Lord brought us together.
All sorts of nonsense. But at the end of the day...
What the hell was that?
We got this! Take the shot! I'm gonna wait!
Come on. There we go. But at the end of the day, if everyone's broke, then who cares? Like, we're not talking about a deadly virus. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against quarantine measures, and I think something like COVID is an excellent dry run for an actual fucking serious pandemic. And long term, yes, COVID can be a serious pandemic. Long term, the long term health issues that can arise from having COVID could be problematic, to use that word in its correct terminology, unlike a lot of intersectional individuals. But the thing is it should have just been a trial run. And if we are to go by the concept of it being a trial run, well, it failed. The measures that were put in place failed abysmally. They need to be rethought. They need to be they need to be looked into again. They need to be.
Listen up, Agent. You've got 3 objectives, and none of them are easy.
1. Shut down their comms relay. 2. Knock out their tactical center.
And 3, take control of the on-site armory. Because I
Oh,
need those
fuck.
guns for my people. Now go to it.
What have I walked into? I feel like that's something else. That looks like a mission. And yeah. Ow, my face! Ow, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna fucking die. Fuck you, sniper dude. I don't even have a sniper rifle. Duck and weave, man, duck and weave! Oh shit, I don't even know how to get into there. Be around here somewhere. Yeah, it failed. They need.
Scout spotted an LNB patrol harassing civilians.
There's so many things that need to be rethought and
They need backup.
and handled a different way. I mean, you can't essentially bankrupt the country every time it has an outbreak of the sniffles, no matter how bad the outbreak of the sniffles is. And how people have been, how the governments have behaved with it. It doesn't even look like they're doing anything that makes sense. You know?
You want this. Nobody's got a better selection.
Oh. I think I probably have to go back to base and get another superior. Oh, what is that? Assault rifle. That is sexy. Okay. That's only within a couple, and it'll stop bitching at me that I need to upgrade. Yeah, no, I want to go back to base, get some more stuff from there.
You won't regret it.
Yeah, I don't know, like
74 years I've lived here, and goddammit, I'm gonna die here. But God's willing, not yet. I didn't move after the blackout, I didn't move after Sandy, and I'm not moving to some goddamn condo farm in Boca filled with alpacas now. You hear me? So you listen to me? When you know it.
so. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the way everything is going, it's retarded. The quarantine measures are pointless. Yeah, the quarantine measures are absolutely fucking pointless. The damage it's doing to the infrastructure of nations, the damage it's doing to businesses, it's clear that those who are currently in control have no idea what they're doing. They don't, and they're going to destroy so much. And if they do know what they're doing and they're destroying everything, all for, as I said, a case of the sniffles, which is not a deadly sniffles disease. And again, keep in mind a lot of people where they're saying, "Oh, these people have had COVID; they're all dying of it. This is the mortality rate of the virus." It's not a very high mortality rate virus. There have been much higher mortality rate viruses in the past, much higher rate. I mean, the worst one that I can remember is the one that I read up about, because I like the reading up on history. My dad was a big World War One, World War Two buff, or I say was as if he's dead. He's not dead yet. um, he's still hopefully got a good few years left in him, but he was really into World War One and World War Two when he still had his memory and all of his marbles. And a big thing is after World War One, there was a massive new strain of influenza that came out. It caused a massive epidemic, a big epidemic, one that essentially the influenza epidemic following World War One killed more soldiers, killed more people than the war itself did. And the death toll in World War One was a never again war death toll, which ironically only lasted about 20 years before there was another fucking war, which had an even bigger death toll. But then again, like, you actually look at the death toll of World War II and those killed in combat, as opposed to those who had died from the typhoid outbreak and those who had died from various other elements of that war, which you can't talk about. And it's the death tolls aren't that dissimilar overall, especially if you don't count the Russian front, because they had a habit of just throwing men at a problem until it went away, and the problems did go away, but there's an awful lot of people to throw at the problem. Anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Maybe I'll talk about a more happy topic.